is into this right now. A lot of these people aren't getting paid. We live in a dangerous world. The Democrats they're playing with fire here, and they need to come to the consensus and come to the conclusion that we need to get beyond this and put people back to work, open up these agencies, and let them continue with the mission that they're tasked with.
There's the Senate Majority Leader, Senator John Thune, talking about what's at stake here as the Democrats stand in the way of funding the Department of Homeland Security. Meanwhile, we are bombing the crap out of Iran, and for good reason. What is at stake with this logjam in Congress? Let's bring Senator Eric Schmitt back onto the show with us. Senator, thank you very much for the time today. It's great to have you with us.
Good to be back with you, Annie.
Thank you. You know, you're sitting there, you got a front row seat. The Democrats don't want to fund the security of the homeland, which right now I'm thinking would be a great time to step up and fund. What's going to happen next?
Well, I mean, really, I think Senator Thune hit the nail on the head in that previous clip. The ball is in their court. I mean, Republicans again today voted to do this. We do it every week. We're at a place now where we front-loaded, and I think this is what's kind of crazy about it. This past summer, we front-loaded the money for ICE. So think of detention centers, think of deportations, think of ICE agents. We front-loaded all that. So they're able to do that. But there's a lot of other law enforcement, Secret Service, there's cybersecurity, there's TSA, there's FEMA, there's the Coast Guard. That's also in this funding bill that they're holding up and they're blocking. And it's really, I think, just like this hissy fit, again, with they don't like President Trump. They want to defund ICE. And it's just terrible policy. And, we're hearing reports, we had the longest government shutdown a couple of months ago at the hands of the Democrats. There were TSA agents who were sleeping in their cars to save money on gas. Yeah. And now they're going without paychecks again. This whole thing is so stupid. And it is Trump derangement syndrome, Annie. I don't know another way to describe it because it doesn't make any sense. They're not actually accomplishing what they want to accomplish, which is defunding ICE. What they are doing is holding all this other stuff hostage. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's obstructionism. And, I don't mind a little obstructionism here or there. If we were in the minority, I would probably want you to slow the Democrats' roll a little bit as well. But I'm trying to think, if the Democrats were to get what they wanted, it wouldn't even really seem to be that obvious and apparent to the public at this point right now, because as you've mentioned, their nemesis being ICE is already funded. They missed the opportunity to defund that. So how does this end if it does?
Well, basically what they want is in exchange for money for DHS, they want us to kneecap ICE, and we're not going to do it. Like, we're not going to take away the tools ICE needs for deportations, because what they really want, Annie, they put 15 million people in here illegally. They wanted a problem so big that the only answer was mass amnesty. We're not going to do that. So what is the next option for them which is you don't enforce immigration laws, and effectively, de facto, you have amnesty. That's what they really want, but we're not going to do that. I will say, though, that this is not, you talk about obstruction, whatever. These policy debates have never really, in the history of our country, played out on spending bills like this, right? Like, basically, yeah, you've got, we want to do Save America Act. Democrats don't want to do it. We want to do whatever. They don't want to do it. But when you're funding departments like this in fact, a bipartisan negotiated DHS bill that we were about ready to pass, then what happened in Minneapolis happened. The Democrats thought they had some moment here. That's what this is. So again, just like with the previous government shutdown, when you start injecting things that aren't about appropriations, right, into like these other big things, you end up with these government shutdowns. This is a relatively new phenomenon, and the Democrats, they just don't care. Like, they literally the arsonists here, and they don't care. And the mainstream media, the legacy media, lets them get away with it. Yeah. They just, every day, the questions, you'd be shocked, the questions I get up here every day.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit less of an obstruction than it is a hostage situation. And the stakes are really high right now. I want your thoughts and comments on President Trump's, the administration's efforts in Iran. I don't know to what extent you've been briefed on this. The lockstep response from the Democrats is that Trump is willy-nilly just bombing the crap out of Iran with no exit strategy, and now we're in a forever war on day 5 or 6 or whatever it might be. What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't support forever wars in the Middle East, that's for sure. And the President Trump has never, that's not what he's talking about either. This is a limited strike on the, basically, if the idea is, which I agree with President Trump, we should never have a nuclear Iran. Iran should never have a nuclear weapon, because the blackmail that would take place, the uncertainty, all that stuff, even for Americans, would be real. So if you accept that proposition, what Iran was attempting to do was build up their missile stockpile to such a degree, and their launchers, that you couldn't do what you needed to do to make sure Iran never had a nuclear bomb, right? So effectively, they're marching towards that again, and this is an effort to take out those capabilities. That's what President Trump has articulated, a very clear plan of action here. Again, the Democrats are recklessly filing these resolutions that would essentially leave our troops high and dry at a time where missiles are flying over their heads, right? So I think that ultimately the Democrats here have a problem in that they just oppose everything President Trump does. They just do. They're not really rooting for America. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries the other day was talking about America losing, and I just don't. It's pathological at this point. So we want to pray for our troops. There's no doubt about that. And I think that President Trump is intent on doing this, doing it decisively, and not interested in a forever war in the Middle East.
Senator Eric Schmitt speaking with us, of course, the United States Senator from Missouri. I think one of the most important lines of many that President Trump delivered during the State of the Union was a very simple line, and it was a pause and a reflection to his right when he said these people are crazy. And you've just made the statement there that they're not rooting for America. If they're not rooting for America, they're rooting against America, and they certainly wouldn't stand for Americans. It's a really dangerous time right now, especially with having Homeland Security not funded. I'm looking for anything. Like, what is the thing that the Democrat Party as a whole and what they stand for, where we can meet in the middle and agree on something? It seems as though the leadership, anywhere you could meet in the middle, they run as fast as they can the other way.
Well, the problem is their parties for a decade now has been defined by their just visceral hatred for Donald Trump, right? In the first term, and then when he's out trying to throw him in jail, now on the second term, that has defined their party. I mean, look, they have ads in Illinois, your home state, where they're talking about F Trump. I mean, It's just like
that's it.
Where are the Harry Trumans and Jack Kennedys? I just don't that you can have a rational conversation about things. So they stand for that, as anti-Trump, but then also, they can't get away from this, this guy in Texas, this Tallarico guy. His posts are coming to light now where he's, this is supposed to be the golden boy, the new Beto, the new Buttigieg, whatever. And he's talking about, abortion care for trans people and talking about, he has to apologize for his whiteness every day. All this just crazy stuff. They just lose people because it is a fringe party now. I would love nothing more than to have a mainstream Democrat Party where you could try to work on some things for the betterment of the country. It's just, I'm telling you, they've been captured by the radical left. And I don't think they've hit rock bottom yet. I think they're still a couple election cycles away, hopefully.
Well, yeah, as President Trump said, these people are crazy, and they keep finding them. That's the amazing thing, and they keep running them, which is even crazier.
Well, and by the way, speaking of which, the State of the Union feels like forever ago, like a year ago. It was like last week. But I also thought it was a really good speech. But the other defining moment there was when he said, "Stand if you believe that the purpose of the government is to protect American citizens, not illegal immigrants." They could not stand for that. And they stood for other stuff. So it's not like they didn't stand for anything. Republicans stood up, Democrats didn't. I think that's a pretty significant fault line that the voters should remember in the fall.
Yeah, but when they tell you who they are, believe them, certainly. Senator Schmitt, I want to talk about the Save America Act. I want to talk about the SAVE Act. A lot of pressure for the SAVE Act to get through, a lot of questions about what that, if you invoke the standing filibuster, what that would actually mean, what it would actually look like, the resolve of the Democrats, maybe it's not as easy as a tweet might explain it to be. I want to know your thoughts on the SAVE Act, and we can talk about the Save America Act as well.
Yeah, so just as far as this, the Save America Act here, we're talking about pretty common sense proposals, which is you got to prove you're a citizen to vote, you got to show an ID to vote, and I think I'd like to add, make sure there's some protections on mail-in balloting so you don't have a bunch of massive fraud, right? Those are all very popular things to do. 70+% of Democrats think that's what we should do. The Democrats here in Washington don't want to do it because they know that they've lost the case of the American people and they want people who shouldn't be voting. That's the truth. Now, if you get into the weeds about how can we get that done, the talking filibuster is people are kind of think that a filibuster up here means that people actually have to hold the floor. It's like Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's not what happens at all. It's just a straight up vote for, you get 60 votes or you don't. I liken it to, I served in the Missouri Senate before I was in statewide office and then before I was here. And if you wanted to hold something up by way of a filibuster, which is something a minority should be able to do in some ways to slow things down in a Senate, that's why you have a bicameral legislature. you had to earn it. Like, you had to speak, and I did it, and I saw it happen too. So, like, you have to earn it. And what this would do, it would say that we would spend the requisite amount of time for all the Democrats to stand up as long as they possibly could. And then at the end of the day, when they're exhausted, we get to a vote. I'm in favor of that. I think that that's consistent with how you would view a minority party's ability to still have a say. And it's not a straight up majority in that way, and that the Democrats still have, in this instance, still have the ability to do it. I think, look, they would have plenty of senators that would stand for 30 hours. Cory Booker, I've seen him. Cory Booker would do it. He's in decent shape. Cory Booker, do it for 20 plus hours. You probably have a few of them. But now here's the flip side, Annie. Republicans would have to have the resolve to be here and this is way in the weeds, but you asked the question.
Yeah, interesting.
If they say we note the absence of a quorum, what's a quorum? It's 51 members, okay? Meaning more than one half of the Senate is actually there. They could at any time in that debate note the absence of a quorum, and 51 Republicans would have to say, I'm here. So I say that because it would take an incredible amount of political resolve for us to do it. I'm in favor of it, but we got to make sure that that's actually where 51 people are.
Yeah,
but
you have
that's kind of where the rubber meets the road.
I have to ask you before we let you go, Senator Eric Schmitt speaking with us. Big breaking news in the last hour that Kristi Noem is out as DHS Secretary. Your colleague, Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma, apparently in as the new nominee. Your comments on Kristi Noem's exit and the likelihood of Mullin's approval and his ability to do the job.
Yeah, look, all the cabinet secretaries serve at the pleasure of the president, right? As the ability to make these decisions. I know Markwayne very well. We came into the Senate together along with J.D. Vance and Katie Britt and Pete Ricketts and Ted Budd, and we've remained very close. We still have dinner frequently all together. Markwayne will do a good job. He really will. He cares a lot about the country. He cares about border security. And I got news for the Democrats. What's not going to happen is we're not letting up on deportations. Like, that is a mission of this administration, to understand the tragedies that were left in the wake of 15 million people coming here illegally. Lake and Riley, all these sons and daughters of American citizens who are murdered by illegal immigrants, we're going to deport them. And Markwayne Mullin will be on board with that agenda. So I would think he's got a very good chance of being confirmed. I mean, he's obviously one of our colleagues, and he's very well liked. So in President Trump's pick. So, that'll play out over the next, several weeks here.
Last question. Who would win in a fight? You're a big, strong guy. Markwayne Mullin, he's had a fight before. If you guys had to rumble, is Markwayne taking you, or are you taking him?
No. We've had this. We've had this discussion. I've got the reach, so I take the 6'6" guy.
All right. Senator Eric Schmitt over Mullin over Kristi Noem. Totally different things. Thank you so much, Senator. It's always great to have you with us.
All right, Andy. Take care.
Bye-bye. That's the headline for the day. Senator Schmitt has the reach, which is that matters in a fight for sure. I'd kind of pay to see that for some sort of charity.